So in this video, we're going to talk about designing an assignment sequence for particularly a composition course, a first-year composition course, developmental writing course, something like that. The principles that I'm going to talk about will also be relevant to designing assignment sequences for other types of courses like business writing, professional writing, technical writing, as well as things like literature courses or any other type of course where you're assigning a set of papers. So, in terms of designing an assignment sequence, one thing that I think you do want to do is to figure out first what textbook, if any, you're going to have your students use, because some textbooks will lend themselves better to particular assignments than others. So, for instance, if you wanted to use this particular textbook, but it doesn't have a section on process analysis essays, for example, you may not want to teach a process analysis essay just because there isn't that material that your students can draw on in the textbook. Now, you can say, well, I want to give them outside resources, and that's totally fine if you want to take that approach. I think there's an argument to be made for trying to get the maximum benefit out of a textbook that you have students read, but that's really a choice that's up to you. But the kind of information that's listed in the textbook that you're using, or any, if you have a book of sample essays or things like that, the materials that you're having students get can be a really good way to decide which assignments or what range of assignments you might want to teach. Then, for me, there's two main approaches to designing an assignment sequence. One is a skills-based approach, and the other is creating an arc to the course. So, when I say a skills-based approach, what I'm talking about there is you identify a set of things that you want your students to be able to do at the end of the semester, or types of writing that you want them to be able to do, and you shape your assignments around those. So if you want your students to be able to write a personal narrative and a rhetorical evaluation and a process analysis paper and a proposal argument, whatever it is, you say, okay, I know the skills I want my students to gain. I'm going to choose particular projects that will focus on those skills, that will sharpen those skills. So that's one way of doing it. And I try and tell my students why we're doing the assignments that we're doing, why we're doing them in the order that we're doing them, what, if any, the connection is between them, etc., etc. So I think that's a good approach. If you're going to take a skills-based approach to assignment sequences, to course design, I would tell my students up front, we're doing this paper because I want you to develop these kinds of skills. And I've actually done that, even with ARC-based assignment courses. I've put on some of my assignment sheets in the past. These are the particular skills you want to focus on. For this project, I want you to focus on learning to write a thesis, on topic sentences, and on providing evidence, for instance. Or I want you to focus on research and engaging with a particular audience's rhetorical needs, whatever it is. So that's a thing you can do on your individual assignment sheets or in class when you're discussing the assignments, whatever makes more sense to you. I think that's a really good thing to do. The other thing, I think, I don't want to get my jacket all cat hairy here. So the other big approach that I would suggest taking, and this is what I normally do myself, is an arc to the course. And what I mean by that is your projects move through a particular logic. There's a reason why you move from one project to the next, and you're basically, you think about this as the course telling a story. So in my first year composition courses, I start with a profile where they write about somebody else. Then we do a rhetorical evaluation where they analyze someone else's writing. Then, in the past, I've done a productive counterargument. This coming semester, at time of filming, I'm going to be doing a video response where they will engage with someone else's argument, and then a researched argument in which students make their own arguments drawing on the work of others. So those are my four: the profile, rhetorical evaluation, productive counterargument / video response, and researched argument. The arc of the course that I explain to my students is they start with a sort of basic engagement with another person or another person's voice or ideas, and they get progressively more engaged with other people's voices and ideas. So that's the thing for me. That's what I do. Is the idea is we enter increasingly into critical conversations, intellectual conversations, academic conversations, and the project are selected to ensure that at each stage they are more involved with what others are saying. Now, you can come up with different arcs as well. I've seen arcs that are based on students developing their own voices as writers, and you choose projects that you feel will help them achieve that goal. You could also do something like a local engagement course where maybe they start with an observation paper. They go to a particular location on campus or something. They choose a particular location on campus or something like that, and they write about that place. Maybe they do an interview project where they interview somebody on campus. Things like this, where the projects are designed so that they are involved in their local community. So there's any kind of thing like this. You can figure out, to build an arc, what type of unifying element you want for these projects, and let that guide the choice of the project. Let that guide the design for the assignments. Now, one thing I do want to say, either for a skills-based or an arc-based course, you can also theme a class. It depends on the particular institution and program you're in. Some places are more cool with theming courses than others, but either of these approaches, the skills-based or the arc-based, can work perfectly fine if you want to say, on a content level, we're looking at environmental issues or race issues or sports or video games or music or whatever it is, whatever particular theme you might want to give your composition course, that will sometimes make it harder or easier to do particular projects, but in principle, that does not interfere with either the skills-based or the arc-based approach. The other thing that you may think about doing when you're designing an assignment sequence, whether this is your first time first time teaching a particular course, or whether you're just redesigning a course that you've taught before, talk to some of your colleagues about what assignments they teach, what projects they have their students do, and see what you might draw from. Because that's a really good way to get new ideas for projects.